Welcome to Sizzling Book Chat. This is a new series of interviews with book authors. Some of the names you may know and some you may not, but what a great way to learn about new books. I'm Renee Averett, and I write under the pen name of Lillian Wolfe, so I will be hosting this series. Before we begin, I'd like you to see the new trailer for my latest book, Outer Rim. Welcome to my first interview video. Today I'm talking with author Kitty Turner about her upcoming debut novel, Zone Trip. Kitty has written several nonfiction books, but this is her first foray into fiction, and it's a rad book. She's a six-time entrepreneur and generates a full-time income from her businesses, travel blog, and books since 2002. Welcome, Kitty. Let's chat.
Thank you, Renee.
Okay. Your novel Zone Trip is quite an adventure to read. I was drawn into it from the get-go. How would you describe it?
Yes, well, Zone Trip is a techno-thriller, and it's set in near future San Francisco. So I was a resident of San Francisco for about 16 years, and it's based on my true life experiences with an underground art society called the Cacophony Society. So it is a bit of a retelling of a bunch of guerrilla artists that try to break the system. Some of the actions and events that cacophoneyists took place in are things called billboard liberations, which is changing billboards, and these are true things that happened. There are things called culture jams, and culture jams are going out into the public and just doing things that are unexpected, that are not the normal social reality. So there's a very charismatic leader of these artists in my book named Leo. And Leo really challenges people to take it to the extreme, which is also based on another society that predates the Cacophony Society, and that's called the Suicide Club. And they were founded, I think, in 1977. They were an extreme version of this kind of arts prankster type of group. So Leo is more of that ilk, and so he really pushes people into dangerous situations. So yes, his followers question if that's safe, if it's, the ethics of it. They are very drawn to him. So the book is quite character-based in that these relationships, I think, are the driver for the story. But yeah, there's a lot of exciting action in it as well. So yes, it's a techno thriller about artists in San Francisco.
Okay. Well, obviously, I know you lived in San Francisco, which is your location setting for the book, and you were part of the 1990s counterculture.
Mm-hmm.
So how did those experiences influence Zone Trip? I think it fed in quite a bit.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, for around 16 years or more, I was involved in these events, these actions, myself, and knew a lot of the key players, lived with them, worked with them. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, it is a retelling of my own experiences, set in a fictional world, as well as just a real love for this community. It is an art movement that really has influenced so much in the world, but it's because it's a secret society, very few people know about it. And I am sort of stepping out of bounds here. Technically, if you're part of the Cacophony Society, you're not supposed to talk about the Cacophony Society. So this zone trip, it'll prick up a few hackles here and there that I'm telling it, but I think that it's the way it's told as a speculative fiction piece is well done, and I think people will appreciate it. But yes, so these are sort of secret actions that have influenced culture in major ways. I mean, I can see it for myself because I was involved in it. Yeah, it's my personal experience retold.
Yes. So you're kind of letting the cat out of the bag here.
A little bit, yes.
So are you ready for repercussions? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, your main characters, we have basically four of them, with Leo and Evan and Lydia and Joel.
Mm-hmm. Right. Joel.
Are they based on people that you knew? Are they a composite of several people all rolled into one?
Honestly, they are all me.
They're all you.
They're aspects of me. So I do incorporate certainly the characters, the parade of characters I knew in the art scene and in San Francisco in the music scene. I was a nightclub owner, and so knew lots of artists and musicians and collaborated with them and promoted them. Yeah, I mean, it is a wide sampling of many, many artists. But if you read the book, it is unique in that it is a very deep, probing, and unblinking look at the psyche of me and human nature in general. So to be able to do that, I really needed to draw from myself and be really fearless in that. So yeah, I mean, people hate Leo. I think he's a great villain. I mean, I adore him. And I think, as my beta readers, my alpha readers, my launch team reads the book at first, or even for the first reading and sometime after, they really hate Leo. However, after a second reading or after some consideration, they sort of see the qualities of him that are valuable. So I adore Leo. I am Leo. I am Evan. I am Lydia. I don't take it to heart when people say, "Oh, wow, Leo's such a terrible guy," because I just think he's a very rich, dynamic villain. And yeah, I mean, we all have our shadow side, so he's a shadow side of me. But yeah, so it's a combination of what you said, a composite of a bunch of people, but it's drawn from me.
Yes. Okay, well, let me see what has inspired you to write the book at this time. Has this been boiling in your mind for a long time?
Well, yes. So I've been a writer, professional writer since about 2014. It's when I started travel blogging professionally. And I attempted a novel around the same time with NaNoWriMo. And I didn't have the skills or the chops. It was a kind of a good idea, but it was sort of a mishmash of a memoir, and I just didn't know the ropes. So that one, I didn't even push to have it published. I didn't want to self-publish it. I just kind of knew in my heart that it was a practice novel. So I put that aside and focused on, growing my blog and nonfiction. So I lived in the Caribbean. We didn't establish that, but I lived on a sailboat in the Caribbean with a circus troupe, and we toured from resort to resort in casinos. And so that gave me a good launching pad, a purview to write very interesting travel blogs. So the fiction kind of sat in the corner, as we all, if you're a novelist, you have things sitting in drawers and things that have never seen the light of day. And that was American Circus. That was that first novel. And I was a little discouraged, because that wasn't successful and it was a lot of work. So I put it aside for a while. We, my husband and I, and my young son, so he was born in 2010 in the Caribbean. We lived on the boat, and a Hurricane Irma hit in 2017 and destroyed our boat completely. It destroyed really almost every non-cement building on our island. It was a disaster zone. I think many people don't remember that. Hurricanes happen all the time, but it was very traumatic. We were evacuated, and I moved to the Reno area because I have family here, and had to sort of reinvent myself. It was 10 years of travel blogging and performing and living on a boat and living in the middle of the Nevada desert. It's quite different. I don't live in Reno proper. I live in, it's a lovely, lovely town. To call it the middle of the desert is not doing it a service. I live in Gardnerville, and actually it's stunning. It's just below Lake Tahoe. My home has a gorgeous view of the mountains, and it's a lovely place, but it's very different from, a turquoise blue bay in the Caribbean. So yes, it was completely different. Had to reinvent myself. Different employment, and I've always been, I haven't always been. I was a corporate, app developer and database administrator in my 20s after I got out of college, which was art college, ironically. But I went into the arts in about 2002. So I had, my own businesses, nightclubs and yoga studios and things like that. So I didn't want to go and work for somebody. So I had to invent my own thing. And I decided to open a publishing house, essentially. I mean, it was publishing services, but it's essentially a small press, because I've always, in my heart, felt as though I was an author and I wanted to serve other authors, but that tends to be something we as artists do. We sort of picked shadow jobs, supporting jobs to the art we want to do. But really, 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 I wanted to be a novelist. And I had for a long, long time. And, I was skirting around it, supporting other people, writing nonfiction books, and I'm like, I basically chucked it all out the window, a very successful business with lots of, a partner and people who worked for me. But that was really what I was calling to me. So I talked to my partner. She allowed me, while the business was still running, to really focus on writing a novel. You, Renee, actually were involved with some critique on that. And I dissolved the company because that's really what I wanted to do. Now I feel very fulfilled. It really is. I mean, 10 years of beating around the bush, and a novelist is what I want to be. So yeah, that's a very long question. I mean, a very long answer. However, yeah, that's the driving force, and I'm thrilled. I'm really, really pleased with how well this novel came out. I'm really amazed with the support of other big name artists and Publishers Weekly, and I mean, it's getting great reviews. Even though it's an indie, I mean, I don't want to say even though, because I am so 100% behind indie publishing at this point. It just I'm having a great experience with it and not really having any setbacks. So again,
Awesome.
I am rambling. I'll let you ask me the next question.
Okay. Yes. Speaking of reviews and things, in one review, Rob Hunt, the author of The Warehouse, wrote, "With the tech world currently waging a war on the arts, Zone Trip couldn't have come at a better time."
Yes.
Do you see this conflict as a recent development or ongoing from all the previous decades?
Well, I mean, I think it's existed for a long time, and I have always been on both sides of the fence. I mean, I'm super techie as you can get. I mean, I designed my first website in 1994. My career from 1990, 1991, I was a tech support agent for Borland International, which is something that very few of you remember, but it was sort of a contender for the Microsoft Cup. They were battling it, and they almost won, but were trounced. Philippe Kahn was the CEO of that, and it was one of the first companies that built one of those mega campuses with all of the fancy coffee bars and yogurt things. And that was in the very early 90s. So I was, tech support, learned how to program and code at that point. I did go to art school for fine arts, but sort of pursued the tech, because it made San Francisco livable because I could afford to live there. I mean, it was way cheaper back then, but it was still very expensive. So yes, I went into first database design and then application design for legal apps in the early 90s, very techy. But the arts pulled at my heartstrings. My husband as well went into tech, but he was actually a filmmaker from Cal Arts. And so we were both kind of in the same boat, back and forth between arts and tech. When the internet bubble started to pop in about 2002, he was laid off and got a very good severance and options and all sorts of things. And it was, a few $100,000. So we traveled for a while and then went into the arts. We opened the nightclub, as I told you about, and got, we had been involved with Cacophony and arts communities throughout. However, we got far more involved at that point. So yeah, art and tech in my life has been battling. Now, yes, as Rob says, it is at the forefront of the discussion because of things like AI, and I understand that. I really embrace AI. I really embrace tech. But I understand the argument of artists saying that they may be losing jobs or that their copyrights are being infringed upon with AI sampling their works, or people, stating their name in a prompt, so therefore it's in their style. However, I mean, I would argue that that's been happening all along, way before AI. That you would want to you study an artist, a writer, and you write in their style until you find your own voice, or you paint in that style until you find your own voice. So the answer is I love tech. I use tech. I use it for art. I use it for everything else. I am truly also an artist, and that is my heart. That's my whole motivation and goal, is supporting the arts community and being an artist. So yes, there's a waging war, and I don't think I'm a turncoat. I think I'm just very equally on both sides. And I'm standing by and watching it unfold. I don't think I'm going to, I hear the battle cries of like, AI is abomination. It will ruin the world. It will ruin us as artists. It will take over the world, and I just can't get on that side of it. And
I think as we both have worked probably with computers for a long time and worked with it, and that GIGO rule still applies: garbage in, garbage out. If you can't tease it right, you're not going to get the right response. So, and what I've seen so far of AI, it depends on what you ask it, how you ask it, as to what you get back. Because some of it has been ridiculous.
Absolutely. It always needs the human touch, or at least at this point. It's very new, though, and I think that's the fear, is that at some point it won't be necessary to have the human touch. Everything can just be generated, and it will be quality enough. However, I liked something I read in Publishers Weekly, and I can't quote him directly because I can't remember his name, but he was talking about how AI, a good analogy to it is driving. So you can predict that in 50 years, almost all cars will be autonomous. So, easy, convenient, autonomous cars. However, Formula One, NASCAR will never be autonomous. Why? Because the whole attraction of it is the human element. Seeing a bunch of robots that can't hit each other racing around a track, has no interest. And I was talking to my husband about that, and he was arguing on the other side of like AI is going to destroy us. Of what was the Terminator, Skynet? I can't remember. Anyway, so he was on that side of it, and I told him about that, and he said, "Well, what about like drones? So drone wars, or like the cars are programmed to crash into each other or something like that." And I said, well, then that's a whole new form of art. So I think it's nuanced. Yeah, people that use pure AI and don't put the human touch onto it, they're going to be the autonomous cars, and that's not bad necessarily. There's going to be the Formula One and the NASCAR racers. Those are going to be, highly skilled. We can always do new stuff, and I think it's wonderful to be able to even be more experimental, because we're trying to outperform AI, which is very pedestrian. And I think it always will be, because it's derivative of things that have come before. It can't draw from things that don't exist, so we need to continually invent those things. Right? So I think it pushes artists in a way to become Formula One or NASCAR. And then the idea that he presented, that there could be new art forms that come out of it, and I've already experienced that wholly. I am coming up with wonderful new art forms that are a combination between my creativity and AI. Again, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna talk. I can't help it.
Okay. So, chosen to self-publish Zone Trip.
Mhm.
Not even really looking at the possibility of going to a big 5 publisher.
Yeah.
So, can you talk about your reasons for doing it and what you are hoping to demonstrate with your book launch?
Well, I did actually look at traditional publishing, and I hear my friends, echoing what I thought at the time. So I did do querying, and my thought was that it was validation. If the gatekeepers liked my book, then my book was good, and I could be convinced that it was. And I also thought that they would do a lot of the work for me in terms of promotion, and I could just write. However, in retrospect, now that I have wholly embraced indie publishing, I do see that I don't want to badmouth traditionally published authors at all, but it saddens me when people say, well, if I don't get an agent, if someone doesn't recognize me or discover me, then it's all over. I'm just gonna, not publish that book. It's clearly not good, and I will just need to try again, write again. And I hear people saying that over and over again. I also hear people saying that they can't get the opportunities that traditional publishing gives them from indie publishing, like optioning your story for film or TV, or foreign rights, or book, wide distribution in brick and mortar bookstores. However, it's completely not true. So I guess, I have to say that people say over and over again, well, Kitty, you're smart and you're really persistent, and you're a great problem solver, and therefore you're equipped to do it all. Most people can't, but I feel that is not true. I think that as I develop systems to make indie publishing more efficient and make it, every opportunity that a traditionally published author has available to indie authors, including myself, that I see that there's no limitations. There are limitations with traditional publishing, but with indie publishing, it is unlimited. You can do all that a traditional publisher can, and much, much more. I'm really working on great artist collaborations where I'm mixing music and multimedia with my stories. You know, very experimental things that that a publisher would not allow me to do. You know, I can do so much more. You know, and I just really don't want to say that you know, traditional publishing is great, but I also, you know, my artist friends who have, you know, signed with smaller houses or bigger houses, and they're waiting, you know, they, you know, it's exciting, and everyone says, yes, you have been selected, you are, you know, you're worthy, you're valued and stuff like that. But then I hear, and you know, the book I just finished is coming out in 2007, and I'm like, or 2027, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know, uh that's terrible. And or I am so tired, I have been forced on this tour, and I've been at 30 dates, and I'm an introvert, and I just want to die, but my publisher's making me do this tour. You know, I would never go there again. I'm not even tempted. If someone came to me, if Random House came to me and said, okay, we want to take this out of your hands, we want to give you, you know, $100,000, and you know, you're going to be a front list author, I would say no, because I want control of my life. I want control of my schedule. I want control of what experimental stuff I can do. And you know, I found that all of the tools now exist for that. So I am, you know, done with needing the validation from gatekeepers or my, you know, parents to recognize me as an author because, you know, I'm with a big agent or a big publisher. You know, and that was an imagining anyway. They're proud of me regardless. You know, and I think, you know, hopefully people judge the work based on its quality and not, you know, who says it's good and who says it's not. But I am 100% a indie advocate, and my whole platform is based on that now, because I just don't think there's a disadvantage any longer.
Right. So the books you've written previously are on business.
Yes, well, I don't have anything. I've backlisted what I've written
Mhm.
because it's outdated. Most of it was on publishing techniques and publishing services and things like that. It changes so rapidly. So I have taken those off the market for the time being. I probably will revisit them and you know, update them and republish them. But you know, the only thing of mine that's on the market now is going to be Zone Trip on August 8th. And then you know, my publisher, Daily House, has published, you know, probably 20 books that I have worked on editing and worked on marketing for. So, you know, extensively, very involved in them, but those are other authors' books. And those range from anything from the topic of the death of a child and how to recover from it, to an anthology of motivational stories from, you know, 20 women authors, to a wonderful book called Motherwhelmed by Beth Berry. It's about, you know, her experience of living off the grid with her family, and you know, coming back to the world, and her kind of a memoir. A book about you know, elder care and caring for your aging parents, especially if they have senility or Alzheimer's. So wonderful books that are, you know, continuing to. I closed the company probably about 2 years ago,
Mhm.
but all of these books are still thriving and successful from our efforts of editing and marketing. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. So is Daily House Media completely dead now, or are you?
Well, it's my company, it's my LLC, but you know, it's now my own publishing company to
Mhm.
publish my works. I mean, I might open it up again to others. You know, I don't want it to become a small press where I'm
Mhm.
purchasing rights to works and giving out advances and marketing books for people, because I, again, don't want to be the person in control of them. I want to, Daily House will probably come back to life as a way to teach people all of these skills I've learned for indie publishers. And it exists. It's an LLC. It's my publishing company. So, yeah, you can't hire me for it. You can't hire me right now. People, I say these things, I go and I present and I speak, and, I get, people don't want to buy my books. They want to buy my services. And I'm like, I know I don't do that anymore. And they're like, please, please, please. And they'll write. And, but we'll see.
But now you're putting everything you have learned and done to experience, to put your own book out.
Exactly.
So this is exciting for you. Exciting to see the results.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to it. So thank you very much today. Once again, Zone Troop is releasing on August 8th. It's a riveting and fascinating look at the counterculture artistic movement of the past, and I guess still continuing undercover.
Yes.
And possibly repeating in the future. So everybody, do yourself a favor and read this beautifully written and gripping novel. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much.